1, 2, 1, 2. There we go. Hello, everybody. Microphone's working. Everything's working. There we go. I pressed the go live button. I was actually chatting away there for a couple of minutes by myself. I didn't press the big red button on the thing. So, yeah. I got a big red button here in the studio. It makes a noise like a submarine going under the water. No, I don't. Yes, I do. No, I don't. Right. Welcome to Politics, Culture, and Some Other Shit. Thanks for joining me. Those of you that have, this will go out as a podcast. And like, share, subscribe, please, if you can. Hit a wee thumbs up. Do all the shit. You know the thing. It actually does help, so I believe. Head over to the Twitters. Head over to the Instagrams. I had to change my Twitter account. My other Twitter, as you know, my Instagram account, my Twitter account got took down. Apparently I'm so radical and dangerous that I must be repressed and suppressed. I don't believe that for a second. Oh, what happened today? I got interviewed today. It was a bit about music and stuff, but it was about this podcast, about this is what I'm doing, politics, culture, and some other shit. So I got interviewed for Dig With It magazine, which is Stuart Bailey's publication, which is very, very fucking groovy. I love it, and I'm a bit of a fan. So they interviewed me about what I'm doing here. So yeah, I can't wait to see what the article is like and about. So yeah, so there we go. And I'm sorry I haven't gotten to do a podcast or put any videos out this past few days. I've just been fucking mad busy. It's been insane. There's a couple of people on the YouTubes already. There's Thomas Clark. Like Axl Rose used to do, you're just letting the tension build up, aren't you, Andy? Demo up at Twitter Rebels. Yeah, Thomas, yeah, that's what it is. No, I swear to God, I was actually talking away, and what I just told you, that's the second time I've said that in the past few minutes. And I had to press the thing on the YouTube page. Fucking idiot. Yeah. But anyway, there we go. But I wanted to do, I think I told you last week that I wanted to do something on the Queen's funeral, obviously being the biggest news story and spectacle. And I was going to my perspective was going to be taken from the ridiculousness. Like I'll show you. I'll drop the theme out there. I was going to show you it from this sort of stuff, the ridiculousness. So when it was on Twitter and it was on Instagram, and you guys were sending me stuff as well, I think that's very funny. All the porn channels were all cancelled. The funeral of Queen Elizabeth II, and Television X. Somebody says it's going to be a difficult wank. Oh God, brilliant. So I was collecting up all the silliness, and I kind of got overwhelmed. The wee thing that I used to sort of keep track of these things, and then so I'd put it up on Instagram or Twitter, or whatever it was, and then someone had contacted me, someone that I know and respect, an English person, and they kind of sort of said, basically were saying, don't be going offending me. I'm in mourning. They used the word mourning. And I sort of backed off from it then. I went, oh, maybe not. Maybe I won't do it. Because I don't want to offend my friends and people that I know. And then I was out and about. And I got a bit pissed off at myself for not doing it. Because I felt like I chickened out. And then I didn't chicken out. I just didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings that I know. I just thought, okay, this is whatever. I'm just going to leave this one for now. And then I got annoyed. I got annoyed at myself, and then I got annoyed at him for saying to me, "I'm an Irishman, obviously," and I'm like, how dare you fucking put that on me? You can go and mourn the Queen of England if you want, and I can take the piss out of it if I want. I'm an Irishman. It's got nothing to do with me. And if you take offence at that, that's on you. So that's what happened there. And then by the time I'd got over myself and figured all that out, the moment had passed, and I didn't have the time. I've been so fucking busy, so much stuff going on. I mean, literally. Yeah, so there was all this sort of stuff. This is what I was kind of looking at, and showing you all this stuff. And as I'm showing you it now, those of you listening to this on the podcast, there's a few little pictures on the screen there, just of the, like a little A4 sheet in the window of a poker machine arcade. R.I.P. Queen Elizabeth, world's greatest queen. Some fella bedecked from top to bottom in various Union Jacks. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what goes on in these people's heads. They think that this one for the listens on all the porn channels were all TV all cancelled. The funeral of Queen Elizabeth II was up. I mean, that's a bit fucking much, like, isn't it? But that was the way it's been this past few days. It's past 10 days. It's been like that. It's been insane. So I go on to the who's on the YouTubes here. Oh, Rev Duffer. You look a bit late. That's right. Any ideas on the viewing? So Tony Gervin says, any ideas on the viewing figures for Babe Station? 69. Tony. There we go. 69, mate. So, yeah, so listen, like, share, subscribe, do the whole thing. Fire it onto the socials and give us a thumbs up. Apparently it does help, like I said. And if you're so minded, head over to my Patreon where you can support what I'm doing for £1 a month. So yeah, so let's get to it. I want to show you this from last week's video. I think I'm going to keep this video, because what I do is I get them all set up on the software, and then I go through them with you, and then I delete them because I've done it and I don't need them anymore. I delete that thing. But I think I'm going to keep this one. I think this is my favourite of all time. What's this?
So I have seen you occasionally.
Yeah, you have indeed.
So I have seen you occasionally.
Yeah, you have indeed.
So I have seen you occasionally.
Yeah, you have indeed.
So I have seen you occasionally.
Yeah, you have indeed.
So I have seen you occasionally.
That's so fucking good. King Charles, look at the Jeffrey Donaldson, I have seen you. And then it's the look to Michelle O'Neill that gets me. That's what gets me. And she nods and she goes, yes, you do. You know who that is. You have met him. She's looking to the lead. The King of England is looking at the leader of Sinn Féin and saying, who the fuck is this clown? But then fucking the DUP and Jeffrey Donaldson and the rest of them would have you believe that that they're best mates with these people, and that they're in their ears all the time, and because and then the alternative is, oh well, the king doesn't have any power, royalty doesn't have any power. That's bollocks. That's a load of bollocks. They do have power. I heard it. Ash Sarkar explained it. She says it's like having there's a thing they can do where they can not sign a bill and that's it. It doesn't go through, and they'll never do it. They don't have to. The threats there. It says it's like having nuclear weapons. You have them. You don't need to use them. You just have them. And yeah, Tony Gervin says here that in the past was a deliberate dig. Wasn't it? Wasn't it? Fucking right it was. An absolute deliberate dig. Get back in government, you clowns. And did you hear that girl on the dairy protest, the organisation protesting about the cost of, I can't remember what they're called. I was going to get in touch with her and have a wee chat to see if she would talk to me. She completely grilled Sammy Wilson today. Did you see that on Radio Ulster on Talkback? I just listened to it half an hour ago. It was fuck. She knew her shit. Made a complete clown out of him, as did William Crawley. To be fair, did a great job. So, listen, my thoughts on royalty are much like yours. Everybody that's listening to it. Sinead Quinn, Tony Gervin says there's Sinead Quinn. Absolutely, thank you. I wonder. Dairy Against Fuel Poverty, that's it. So anybody should go and listen to them, or go follow them, I should say. And listen to the. I think I retweeted it. So go onto my Twitter, and you'll find the link. And if I remember, I'll put it in the show notes. She fucking. If you want to hear Sammy Wilson getting stretched on the rack, I think that's fair to say. Go and check it out. It's brilliant. But as impressive as she was, it's contrasted by how bad Sammy is, and we know he is. But when he was caught out because he wasn't expecting someone to know their shit as much as she did, and she was fucking brilliant. She was really, really good. So, where are what? Yeah. So, right, the Queen. God rest her. She's a grandmother. She's a woman, and that's sad. That's sad, and we don't want that to happen. But it does. Life, such is life. But I'm sure she'd be missed and mourned by people that knew her, and not people that fucking fantasized that they knew her. Now, check this out. I'm just going to show you a couple of things. I'm sure you've seen most of these, or some of them anyway, but people listening to the podcast, whatever. This is Lindsay Hoyle. Lindsay Hoyle is the Speaker of the House of Commons. And this, to me, is one of the many perfect illustrations as to how ridiculous this got. Now, we know how important she was to certain people. But have a listen to this. This is 10 seconds.
We should not allow anything to overshadow the most important event the world will ever see, and that's the funeral of Her Majesty and the passing of Her Majesty.
So, in case you thought you misheard there, we should not allow anything to overshadow the most important thing the world will ever see: the funeral and the passing of Her Majesty the Queen. The most important thing the world will ever see. Now, this man is not under pressure. He's not an athlete that's come off, that's just finished an event and someone stuck a microphone in his face, which always annoys me when I see that happening. And then they're expected to get their thoughts together and sound relatively sane. This is a man that knows exactly what he's saying, and the reason that he's able to say that is because he's in the bubble. He's up to his neck in the bubble. So he can go on to a television programme, sit in a room full of other people, and say something as ridiculous as that. Mean it, because he's completely hypnotised by the monarchy, by the establishment, by the ceremony and pomp of the spectacles that he partakes in himself. And he can say that, not be challenged, be completely serious, and go back about his days and not be laughed out of the building. Right? Now, if he was just a man in the street, that'd be bad enough. He's not. He's the Speaker of the House of Commons. Now, here's the man in the street. Check this out. What the fuck? Can somebody send the fucking social services around to Sarah and Mark's house? I think their children are in danger. The most important thing that is... Sorry, let me just get that one. The best thing I've ever done in my life, including having my 2 fucking children. What the fuck? And this is the man in the street. That's what they're saying. Lindsay Hoyle is the establishment, and that's what he's saying. This is a complete clown show. This is hypnotism. Porn channels taking porn off the broadcast. Like, who the fuck is going to go to Babe Station to watch? I think I fancy a wee wanky poos. Oh no, maybe I'll just... Maybe I'll just watch the funeral of the Queen of England instead. I'll put that on hold. The notion has left me. I think I'm going to have a cup of tea and I'll come back for a wank later next week when this is all. It's too stupid. It's too fucking stupid. It's too stupid. It's too fucking stupid. You can't make this up. You cannot make this up. It's insane. And these are the people that are in charge of the country. This is the man. Now, when Michelle O'Neill and Alex Maskey and me Jeffrey there met the King Charles in Hillsborough last week, that was a you could see that Michelle was sort of genuine. I mean, that was sort of like pure whack talk, wasn't it? When she was talking to the she was a lovely woman, and we don't say enough nice things about people when they're like, you go to any wake, you hear that, but that's what you do. That's the thing. But it was all well-meaning and all the rest of it, and genuine. What's this? What is this? Somebody needs to phone the police, and the social services need to go around to these people's homes and check on the well-being of these two children. They need to be kept a close eye on. This is insane. And it was everywhere, as you well know. As you well know. On the... oh, no sound on it? Oh, shit. Okay. Oh, bollocks. Should be sound on it. There should be sound. Should be sound. It's quite... Oh, there we go. You're right. Sorry. We'll have to play it again. I just laughed my ass off there for 5 minutes. Check it out. Right, we're going to play it again. Who sent that? Thank you very much for the tip, for the heads up. We'll play it here. There we go.
With me now, Sarah and Mark, who were, if not the last people, very much the last people.
Yeah, we were
in the queue last night. What was that like?
amazing. I think it's the best thing I've ever done in my life. Even having my children, Lily and Luca, I think this tops that.
With me now, Sarah and Mark, who were, if not the last people, very much...
Come on! Come on! You can't do... you can't say that! Onto the... a couple of comments here on lads on YouTube. Regarding Sammy Wilson. Sammy Wilson couldn't see the link between families struggling to buy school uniforms whilst having to pay exorbitant prices for electricity, gas, oil and food. Exactly. You must do that, by the way. You must go and watch or listen to that interview. It is exactly... It's staggering, actually staggering. We are not sending our best out there to represent us. That's a fucking fact. Darren Robinson, can't hear the clip. I hope, did you get it there? Was that it? Lindsay Hoyle making sure he gets his knighthood. Yeah, he already has. Demo. Sir Lindsay Hoyle. I think, yeah, that was my fault. I should have given him his full title. Sir Lindsay Hoyle. That's right. Yeah. Did you hear that? That came through that time, right? Sorry about that. That's my fault. These people are fucking mental. They're lunatics. And that they will go on. But it shows you again the hypnotism that takes place. That you're able, like Lindsay Hoyle is able to go into a studio. Thank you, Darren, you heard it, all good. Yeah, that was my fault. I just didn't click the right thing. Sir Lindsay Hoyle is able to go into a studio and say something as patently ridiculous as this is the most important thing that's ever happened. More important than the liberation of Auschwitz, and more important than the invention of fire, of the first creature crawling out of the primordial fluid and walking, breathing oxygen. More important than any number of invasions, wars, inventions, creations, births, deaths. More important than that, a figurehead of a monarchy that allegedly has no power. Right? The Queen was the head of a mafia. The mafia would be embarrassed. And the reason that she was so beloved was because she kept her fucking mouth shut. That was it. It's one of the reasons why everybody fucking loads Charles. It's because he doesn't. He offers an opinion on everything, especially environmental issues. People don't like that. I don't give a fuck, but it's up to them. So, now, I don't know if you saw this. This is another fucking cracker. So, Kim Jong-un, who's the head of Korea now? Is it Kim Jong-il? And then it was Kim Jong-un before him. So, his father, whoever's in charge now, his father died. There was a big state funeral. So somebody took the video of the Queen's funeral and the audio of Kim Jong-un, Kim Jong Senior, let's say that, Kim Jong Senior's funeral, took the audio from it. Now the audio was the audio that the BBC had put out, right? And put it on top of the Queen's video, the Queen's funeral cortege video, right? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. They need to show this in schools. Watch this. This is fucking brilliant.
It was all intensely choreographed. The weeping announcer, the doleful music, the slow movement of the cortege. It was all intensely choreographed. This is a difficult moment for dictatorship. The succession has now passed peacefully to the third generation of the family business. But it's a worrying inheritance all the same. This year hasn't been a good one for dictators. This is the weird, reclusive...
This is John Simpson talking about the burial of Kim Jong Senior. But the footage is from the royal wedding, or the royal funeral, the Queen's funeral, and they're exactly the fucking same.
Figure who ran the world's most secretive country and did it as though it was his own private property. Looking on was his son, who's around 28. No one knows for sure. He'll take over. And this is where the money which might have been spent on better living conditions actually goes. A select few talk to camera. It doesn't exactly sound spontaneous. Snow is falling like tears, he says. How could the heavens not cry when we've lost our general, who was a great man from the heavens?
Along with the army, the country's media is perhaps the institution most responsible for keeping their leaders in power. A myth-making factory focused around the country's ruling family. That is, for most of its audience, their only source of news.
Still, the Sun has the right credentials.
We've had nothing but the news for 10 days.
That they need him. They need a blood descendant for their legitimacy.
They need a blood descendant for the legitimacy. That's why they sent King Charles out. The minute she croaked, right you round the provinces and fucking keep this fucking show on the road. Keep this roller coaster on the track. It's unbelievable. It's exactly the same.
Once they lose that, they're in trouble.
No one knows what'll happen
boy,
to the country now. The
What about
weeping
that?
announcer.
Did you ever see anything like that in your life? You literally took the audio from Kim Jong-un's funeral, played it over the audio of Queen Elizabeth's funeral, and boom, they were exactly the same. Great job, whoever did that. I tried to find who put that together to give them a wee credit or whatever. Not that it'll make much of a difference to them, but you want to do that. No, couldn't find them. So that's absolutely amazing. Those of you that are listening to this on the podcast, go if you don't want to go onto my YouTube and watch this thing, just have a wee Google. You can find that. It'll come up straight away. It'll come up the top of the list, and you'll see it. It is. I think that is spectacular. Is that not amazing? And again, it's this mass hypnosis. There was a guy who went on the BBC and he was saying about tens of thousands of people at the big screen outside Holyrood in Edinburgh, And then he showed you the footage from Holyrood. There was a handful of people there. It was like 50 people scattered over this big field, watching live. And apparently that was not uncommon across the rest. Everybody that wanted to be involved in this was there. Like 1 million people. There's 60 plus million people in the UK. It's not everybody. I know not everybody was going to get there, but you get my point, right? It's beyond belief. And then, so I'm an Irish nationalist. I want to see United Ireland. I don't want to have anything to do with monarchy. I understand we've got a unique relationship with England, with royalty. That it's there. There's nothing we can do about it for now. At the minute. So you got to play the game. That's what the whole thing, what the Michelle O'Neill thing was. I know it doesn't sit well with people. People before Profit put out a statement, and I agree with their statement. I actually think fucking Sinn Féin would agree with their statement when it comes to the disgusting nature of what monarchy is and colonialism is and all this sort of stuff. But people before Profit aren't about to go into power. Sinn Féin are. So it changes the reality of what's possible. And again, what are we talking about? What's possible? We're talking about a united Ireland. That's what we're talking about here. So, whenever it comes to Thomas Clark says, Charlie only cares about who he can work with for his own end, and that does make you wonder about Sinn Féin and how much they'd be happy to go, yes, we will. I listen, dude, I hear you. I really do. I hear you, man. I do. I hear what you're saying. I agree. And for the record, and I've said this many times on my podcast and on these streams, I vote for Sinn Féin because I do see Sinn Féin as being the best shot that we have to see a united Ireland, and in that united Ireland see socialism or a version of it. It'll not be perfect, not be exactly what I want. No one gets exactly what they want. But if you take care of the housing crisis, built an all-island NHS, and we see a more fair and equitable society, I'll take that for now, because that's not what we've got. We've got far from it. So I hear what you're saying. I agree with you. You're right. And then if they don't do any of those things, I'll drop them like a hot rock. I will. It's one of the reasons that I haven't joined, if you know what I mean. I've been asked by a few people that I know, why wouldn't you? And I've give that as a reason. And I want to be able to criticize. I want to be able to criticize because I have a platform, small as it is. I do have a platform, and I want to be able to. I don't want to be beholden to the party line, and I want to be able to say, I think you're wrong there. But with regards to the meeting the royalty thing, I do think they did the right thing, man. I really do. I think it was the right thing at the time. I don't believe that Alex Maskey or Michelle O'Neill are royalists, but time will tell. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll put my hands up. I'll say I was wrong. They're fucking screwed the pooch and they screwed us all. If they do, I'll say it. And if they don't, no one will remember, and that's the end of it. But here, check this out. So, we're talking about, and when it comes to royalty, do you want to watch the Prince Charles, or the King Charles massacre in Jeffrey again? I do. Here we go.
I have seen you occasionally.
Yeah, you have indeed.
I have seen you occasionally.
Yeah, you have indeed.
It's that wee look. It's that wee look to Michelle, isn't it? It's that wee. I know him, right? He fucking knows him full well. He knows who he is. As Tony G says, that was deliberate. Put a link on the Twitter page to a great article. Won't let me post it here. Not royalists, but realists. Yeah. Tony G. Yeah, I think so. I think that's the reality, mate. I think you're right. So, because we were talking about the census and stuff, so we've got so let's throw the census up here. While we're on the subject, let's not shy away from this. So where's me browser? Sorry, let me just make sure I've got the right page. census results Northern Ireland. Now, I asked earlier on, and some people did send me some stuff, which was great. So this guy, Tonistry, Andrew Train, he, well, I call it Tonistry. It's not it's Tanistry, isn't it? So this guy is, he comes from an Ulster Protestant background, and he breaks it. But he's completely. He went and studied history, and then he's flipped. He's come to the good side. So here's his take on the Northern Ireland census results. Now this was fairly early this morning. I remember bookmarking this. This was so the word would have been quite fresh when he put this together. So I'll just go through it with you. So there are the results of the Northern Ireland 21 census have been released. Now, and I said, I'm bringing this up now because we're talking about the Sinn Féin meeting the King thing and trying to get that middle ground. And we can see that there's a big middle ground to be had. Specifically, details on people's religious background, political identity, and other significant demographic details have been released. The census was carried out 100 years after the creation of Northern Ireland. We can now see how much has changed. Political identity. So one of the categories, political identity, 2011. British only, 40%. Irish only, 25%. Northern Irish only, 21%. And obviously the others would be people that don't identify as any of those. I'm assuming immigrants and people from other parts of the United Kingdom. So that's 2011. So 40% British, 25% Irish, 21% Northern Irish. Now the same question 10 years later. 31.86% identify as British only. Now that's a drop of 9%. 8%, close, 8 point something percent, 8.14%. Irish only, 29.13%, which is a rise of 4.13%. And Northern Irish only, 19.78%, which is a drop of just over a percent. Not significant, but there's movement there. What do you think of that? I think that's kind of amazing. In 10 years, what's happened in those 10 years? We've had austerity, Tory rule, Brexit. You know, these things are. There's no doubt that these things, and I be honest with you, I'd love to see if those exact same questions were asked today. What would be the state of play? Next question, religious group. Quite simple. What religious group do you identify as coming from? Not what religion are you? So the question is, what religion am I? I'm nothing. I'm a pagan, if I would be honest with you. But what religious group do I come from? I come from the Catholic religious group. So that's the point of that question. Religious group 2011, 48% say that they're from the Protestant religious group, 45% say they're the Catholic religious group, and 10.1% say no religion. Now, what does it look like 10 years later? Let's have a look. Religious group 2021, Protestant 37.3%, which is a fall of like 11%. Catholic 42.3%, which is a fall of just 2%. And no religion 19%, which is a rise of 9%. But the biggest movement there is from Protestant to is the Protestant people identify as Protestant. Now, what's the significance of that? Well, there is a significance of that. Northern Ireland was created to secure two things: a majority of Protestants, a majority of British identifying people. So the two things: a majority of Protestants and a majority of British identifying people. 100 years later, the former is a minority and the latter is well within the realm of becoming the same. Most people than ever are outright rejecting the British identity. and either embracing an Irish identity or finding an identity within the North itself. The message is clear. Being British in Northern Ireland is no longer the cultural norm. And that's not a spin. That's not a spin. That's no, there's no saying there's statistics, dear boy. There's statistics and there's damn statistics. But that's a statistic. If you add up political identity, 2011, 40% British, 21% Northern Irish only. 31% and 19% for the same. Sorry, I got that wrong. If you add up Irish and Northern Irish only in 2011, what is it, 46%? And then you add it up today, let's say that's 20 because my math isn't great, and let's say that's 30, that's 50%. Now, I wouldn't go to a poll I wouldn't go to a border poll with that. That to me isn't right yet. That's not enough. But fuck it, I don't know. I mean, if you got a shot, you would take it, wouldn't you? So, to finish Andrew Train's thoughts, people will claim that looking at this figure as significant is nothing more than a sectarian head count. This is simply untrue. Whether you like it or not, the fact that there are more Catholics than Protestants in the North has serious ramifications. Can unionism continue to berate and condemn the sports, language and culture that the majority of Irish Catholics participate in or enjoy? The GAA, the Irish language, Catholicism itself are all regular targets of unionism. Is this sustainable? Every year, the Orange Order marches through the North celebrating the historic victory of Protestants and the brutal suppression of Catholics. How can we tolerate an annual celebration of the defeat of a group which is the majority of the population? Why did we tolerate it for so long in the first place? People will scream to the heavens about how not all Irish Catholics are Irish nationalists. The simple answer to this is that as long as sectarians such as the DUP are the voice of unionism, it's naive to think that many Catholics will be voting for the Union. Northern Ireland is unrecognisable to the way it was when it was created. It is unrecognisable from the way it was 20 years ago, and that's such a great point. That's not long, right? We are in an era of rapid and enthusiastic political change, and yet many would insist that we not only need to stop evolving, but actually need to roll back some changes and evolutions. The age of the Protestant Unionist supremacy is long past, and yet we can't seem to escape it. Why do you think that is? That's a good post. I'm not saying that you have to agree with every word of that, but that's a good post. Fair play to Andrew Train. I think I should get him on the pod, don't you? Have a wee chinwag with him. He seems like a massively interesting guy to me. And I have another post of his to talk about later. So there we go. So what do we think? I'll turn to the YouTubes here and see what you guys are saying. Catholics got more culture to celebrate here. I wonder if immigrants are integrating better to their mutual embrace. Well, that's a fair statement, I think. I don't disagree with that. Catholics have got more culture, and I know. I mean, the clubs that I'm involved in certainly are. There's plenty of immigrants, and they're better off. They're better off for them. Tony G says the blogger tried to spin it that those identified as Northern Irish were still British because the North is British. Yeah, we can't talk about him. He's a fucking halfwit, and he's too. I know we're all biased. I am biased. I'm not going to say I'm not biased. I have a particular bias that's come through my life experience. And this is the thing, isn't it? I think it's the thing that's pushed a lot of people over the edge is Brexit. And then the Northern Ireland Protocol being so roundly rejected by unionism, the extreme wing of unionism, which is sadly not a fringe, but it seems to be the majority. And The Northern Ireland Protocol was given to unionism as a win, and they could have sold it as a win to keep them and us in the union, and a celebration of Britain and the great thing that Britain could offer. Northern Ireland could have been a fulcrum between the United States and Europe, United States and Britain, Britain and the United States, Ireland, Britain and Europe, etc., etc. For the first time in history, we in the North could have been on the pig's back. First time. Those of us within the United Kingdom that have least of all. And the DUP rejected that. They rejected that for phantoms, like phantom words like sovereignty and royalty and all and the pageantry of the silliness of state occasion. And they rejected it, but they rejected it for us all on our behalf. And we're all going to suffer if it finally goes. It's being passed. The bill that's going to undo that is going through the House of Lords at the minute. So, and I don't know what the situation is. It may pass, but breaking the international law and the limited in a specific way, remember that? And whenever people, I reckon that's changed a lot of people's minds. They've looked at this and went, no, whatever that is, I don't want it. I don't want that. What you're offering, I don't want. What the South have to do, what has to happen in the South, in my opinion, is you need to sort out the housing crisis, get an all-island health service planned and hopefully set up. I know it's a big lift. It's a huge lift. That's what needs to happen. Then the argument's won. I've said this from day one on these podcasts. You know this. I think the argument's won. At that point, it's over. It's game over. Because everything's going to get worse. We're looking at Truss. Liz Truss has come in. She's the latest iteration of a long line of Tory hard-right lunatics. And she seems to be worse than the rest of them. She's now advocating 1980s Reagan-era trickle-down economics. Tax cuts for the rich is going to reinvigorate the economy. This is what she's saying. It was bullshit then, and in intervening 30, 40 years, it's been proven time and time again to be complete and utter bullshit. Phantom economics. It's nonsense. It doesn't work like that. You give the rich, you do tax cuts for the rich, they take their tax cuts and they stick it in an offshore bank account. And all the while all you're doing is hollowing out the tax base. So you don't have money for public services. So, you know, back to the YouTube comments here. The blogger, so Tony G said, he's a half-wit. I know you know this. I know we all know this, but my God. Thomas Clark says in reply to the blogger, by the way, for those of you on the podcast that don't know who we're talking about Jamie Bryson. He was trying to spin it that the people identified as Northern Irish were still British. Which is true. We all have the right to be British if we want. But that's not what he was getting at. Thomas Clark says it's an easy spin, that Tony, no doubt. Tony G, yep, he was having a meltdown from 5:30 a.m. That's right, I saw that. So he put out his first tweet, and it was 5:30 a.m. about the census results, which show a clear direction of travel. You know, no matter what you say, no matter how you try to spin it, you can't deny it. There is a clear direction of travel here, and we know what it's all pointing to. Darren Robertson said, I heard news of this census today, and it was such great news that this is the beginning of a new era. How fast it comes up to us. Darren, that's a great point, my friend. That is a fucking fantastic point, and let me tell you why. Over the course of history, if I get Andrew Train on, I'm going to ask him, I'm going to remember this. You know what? I'm going to get Andrew Train on. I'm going to contact him and ask him will he come on. I'm going to write this question down, Darren, because you've sparked something in me that I would like someone like Andrew that knows his shit to talk. I would like to get his opinion on it. When change comes, it comes fast. It speeds up. That ball starts rolling. It's slow. It slows hard to get it rolling, and once you get it moving, and then it becomes unstoppable. And that's where we are. You're 100% right. I heard news of to repeat Darren's statement. I heard news of the census today, and it was such great news that this is the beginning of a new Ireland and how fast it comes now up to us. It's the speed. It's the speed. I hope you're right. I hope it is the beginning of a new Ireland. But it's that speed of change. And I was thinking about this during the week. And when you hear people talking about there's not going to be, like, so you do border poll, do you think there's going to be a border poll within 5 years? Do you think there's going to be a border? I think I spoke about this on the last podcast. Do you think there's going to be a border poll within 10 years? And some people say, oh yeah, I would like one within 5 years. And some people say, I would like one within 10 years or whatever it is. I spoke about this on the last podcast. And I've been thinking a lot about it. And I'm wondering, we're in historical times. We're in historical changing times. The Chinese curse. It's a Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times. It's not a blessing. It's a curse. May you live in interesting times. And we're living in those times right now. The European Union is in a state of flux. What's going on between the United States and Ukraine, USA, NATO, etc. It's all, and Britain as well is heavily involved in that. Massive here in the north of Ireland. The British Tories, it's all massive, and everyone's reacting, and they all seem to be reacting badly. But specifically about us here in the north, the Tories obviously are in charge of everything. We have very little say, none if any. And the change, you can see it. You see events change over the course of your life. The troubles start and then they end. That's 40 fucking years, 30 years, whatever it was. It's slow, it takes time. And then you get the Good Friday Agreement, and you get the benefits of the Good Friday Agreement take another decade. And everything takes time. But once that ball starts moving, and it has been for a while, then you get reactionaries and hard right people in power. And those changes speed up. And that's where we are now. And when we're thinking about a border poll within 5 years, I'm wondering, are we going to get it sooner than that? Is that a thing that can happen? Is it a reality? Is it a possibility that we could get this quicker? And if so, we need to prepare more than we are already. It's not we need to start getting ready for a border poll whenever we finally get the chance to do it. The chance to do it will be dropped on us. This is what I think. This could happen. It could drop on us, like overnight. Boom, there you go. Here's your border poll. You got 6 months to get ready. Off you go. We have to be ready. It's a thing. It's just a thing that's been sort of echoing around my head this past wee while. The changes are coming. They're coming faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. And then boom, it's on. Game on. Just a thought. I'm going to get Andrew Train on for that. Write that down. Sorry. Thanks, Darren. That was a good one. I'm going to badger him until he agrees. It's coming. Tony G says on the Twitter or in the YouTube here, it's coming fast because usual suspects are making the same noises about making Northern Ireland work. They know it's coming. Jerry here. Oh, is that Jerry? There are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen. And who said that? Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. Good pull, Jerry. Good pull, lad. Good speak. Thomas Clark, I like the idea that it's a big tanker changing direction, and now it's facing in. Is it in there? Facing us in. That's another good one. It took a long time to turn. Big oil tankers, they do. I used to have a fucking car like that. Take a long time to turn, and now it's changing the other direction. That's a good one. And then SME 30, it is planned for first too quick, and it could end on tears. It has to be planned for first, too quick, and it could end in tears. 100%, brother. You're absolutely right. It has to be planned for quick. Has to be planned for. That's what needs to happen. And that's why I think getting an all-Ireland health service in place, even under, let's say there's an election down south, right, which is going to be soon enough. Let's say there's an election down south, Sinn Féin win that and they get into power, either in coalition with somebody else or on their own, God willing, and they prioritise an all-Ireland healthcare service, even for us in the north, as an act of goodwill, and they solve the housing crisis, they build the social housing that they've been promising to do. Let's say that happens. What do you think that's going to do? I think that's a game changer. There's another election in 2 years down south, right? Is that right? I think that's a game changer. That everything changes there. They build that all-Ireland health service. They sort out the social housing. Because the NHS is off a cliff. We know that. I think that could be the key. I could be wrong. Again, if you have an opinion, let me know. The Rev Duffer here says, I think it's going to land on us too. That could be how they want it to feel. Yes, man. It could just be dropped. You're right. Yep, that's it. That's the concern, isn't it? And again, to the point, it has to be planned for first too quick, and it could end in tears. That's exactly what we don't want. We don't want a border pull. And if it's not like, Scotland are pushing for their second Indy Ref 2. We're not going to have that luxury. I don't know whether they're going to get it or not. I think they're talking about doing one next year regardless, aren't they? But it's not going to be. I don't think the results are going to be upheld or they're going to be legally binding. But we're not going to get that luxury. We're going to get one shot at this. So everybody, we're all in agreement. It has to be planned. We have to get everything in place. I think the housing and the healthcare. If we get those two things done, and a lot more, there needs to be a lot more done, of course. But those are the two big things. The housing is for the people in the south. 70% of young people in the south, are thinking about leaving because they can't. Purely, not because they can't get jobs, not because they can't earn a living, they can't get anywhere to fucking live. So that's the big issue for the South. The big issue for us all, I think the big issue is the healthcare. I think that could do it. And then so back to the YouTube comments here. Tony G says, can you imagine though, the Voice 1 million plus unionists will have in an All-Ireland Parliament, a bigger one than they have in Westminster, and a point, you're right, is it 20%? Unionists currently would have, if they went into the Dáil, they would have a 20% vote share. And by the way, let's just call a fucking spade a spade. If let's say we're in a United Ireland, and unionists ran for election in the Dáil, they would have a 20% vote share. I think that would go up, actually, right? As a reaction, you would get a bit of a retraction from a lot of people, and they would maybe abandon alliance and things and go back to the traditional unionist parties that they've been voting for, that they've voted for traditionally. So I think that might go up, but let's say 20%. That puts them in government. Fine Gael running the next election, they get 20%. The unionists get 20%. Boom, you're in. They're now in government. They're running the country. If they want. Right? That's what we're talking about here. And this is a whole part of the whole, isn't this a part of the whole, the thing that doesn't make sense about unionism? The Northern Ireland Protocol was a win. It was a fucking win. They wouldn't take it. They wouldn't take it. Because they were clinging to the phantoms of the past. Back to the YouTube comments. That's a great point, Tony G. You're absolutely 100% correct, my friend. SME 30, an NHS style health service would be a huge selling point. Couldn't agree more. I think it's the winner myself. And then the Rev continues. That's why we need to be ahead of the game We need to be talking about it amongst our friends. We need to break down the fear of the unknown by sharing that unknown. We need to promote the possible. That is a beautiful land just over the horizon. We need to reach out and grasp it. Exactly. I couldn't agree more. But see if we had something tangible. If there was something tangible, and again, don't want to keep going back to this point. That little bit of outreach that Sinn Féin were doing with King George, that's a tangible, that's a thing. How are we going to be treated in a United? You're going to be treated really well, actually. Look, you know what I mean? It's a small thing. They got crucified for it anyway, but it's that diplomacy, the diplomatic outreach, and then if they get into power, tangible policies that we can point at and go, there, that's what they did. That's what's happening. Now we're going to plan for the border poll, and then we're going to win it. That's what I think anyway. But back to our issue, right? How quick is this going to happen? If unionism was smart, they would ask for a border poll tomorrow, wouldn't they? Wouldn't they? If they were smart. So yeah, you want a border poll? Oh yeah, fucking right. You're not getting another one. We'll have it at Christmas Eve, right? Okay, done. Right? That's what they should do. But then they should have. They should have accepted Theresa May's deal with the EU, but they scuppered that. Then Boris Johnson overthrows Theresa May. Boris Johnson becomes a leader, goes to the polls, crucifies the fucking Labour Party, goes into the Parliament with a massive majority and doesn't need fucking DUP anymore. Ever thus to deadbeats, Lebowski. Right? So you could say, if my granny had balls, she'd be my granda. If my granny had wheels, she'd be a bike. That's what they should do. But yeah, so there we go. So I'm going to finish this. Do you want to watch the King Charles Burning Jeffrey video again? I do.
So I have seen you occasionally.
Yeah, you have indeed.
So I have seen you occasionally.
Yeah, you have indeed.
So I have seen you occasionally.
Yeah, you have indeed.
It's so good. I'm going to put that on. I'm going to make a wee beat with that. A wee hip hop fucking, a wee bassline drum beat banger. Yeah, you have in the past. Yeah, you have in the past. Yeah, you have in the have in the past. Fucking brilliant. So here we go. Listen, we've been going an hour. I'm going to finish this. We're going to finish this. Because I'm off tomorrow and I'm going to go for a pint. I wonder, has Richie replied? Let me see. Oh yeah, nice one. Oh, he's podcasting as well. If we get finished before 9, there we go. So we're going. If he says if, that means we're going for a pint. So I'm going to finish with one of my great heroes, and I just need to sort out my browser here for you. Because we're right back to the start. There we go. And this is the speech, or an extract from it, of James Connolly's speech when King, who was the fucking king? King George V visited Dublin, 1910, as you can see. And there's so much in here. I was actually searching for this. There was a little, I'll read it out to you, but I'm going to read it anyway. But there was a little bit, and it was the bit that I wanted. And this was the point. Whenever we're talking about royalty and monarchy, right? When we're talking about monarchy and royalty, in this environment that we live in, which is heavily propagandized, heavily propagandized. It's everywhere. Shops closing down. Ridiculous. People, cancer appointments being cancelled. Cancelled. People waiting years for appointments for operations, for consultancy appointments. Rescheduled. That means you're now at the back of the list, so we'll see you in a couple of years. Often, that's what happened. The insanity of it all. It was insane. I showed you at the start, the most important event that ever happened and ever happened. Yeah, the best thing that ever happened to me, even giving birth to my own children. The propaganda, the voice of John Simpson commentating on the funeral cortege of Kim Jong-un, overlaid the funeral cortege and footage from the funeral of Queen Elizabeth II. They could have been the same. They were identical. There was no. It was amazing. The porn channels taking porn off the TV to show the funeral, which is so 69 people can watch. There's a joke that's never going to grow old, right? Unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. And James Connolly, one of my few great heroes, I'm sure yours too. This is what I went looking for a comment from him, and I got the whole speech. And here it is. I'm going to read it because it's that good. But there's one. I'm going to read this first. Whenever that guy said to me at the start, remember at the start, and he said, you know, and I was thinking about doing the podcast on the ridiculous creatures that we saw within the royal self-flagellation and public displays of silliness. And then I didn't do it. I backed down from it. And I was reminded of this. Whenever I got thinking about it, I was reminded of this James Connolly quote as to, because he concisely puts it. He puts it concisely. And here it is. So, why are you anti-royal? The Queen doesn't have any power, they would tell you. So here's what James Connolly says. We will not, and he's talking about King George V, we will not blame him for his crimes, for the crimes of his ancestors, if he relinquishes the royal rights of his ancestors. But as long as he claims their rights by virtue of descent, then by virtue of descent, he must shoulder the responsibility for their crimes. Right? What crimes? The crimes, I mean, all across the world. We don't need to go into it. I'm not going to go into it right now. Queen Victoria stopped the Sultan of Oman or Brunei or somewhere like that sending thousands of pounds for famine relief in the in Black 47, 1847, because she'd only sent so many thousands, and if anybody sent more, it would have embarrassed her, so she stopped that. That's just one crime. I mean, there's millions of them. So here's the thing. Dear fellow workers, as you are aware from reading the daily and weekly newspapers, we're about to be blessed with a visit from King George V. Knowing from previous experience of royal visits, as well as from the coronation orgies of the past few weeks, this could be written today. Today! The coronation orgies of the past few weeks, that the occasion will be utilised to make propaganda on behalf of royalty and aristocracy against the oncoming forces of democracy and national freedom. Could be written today. We desire to place before you some few reasons why you should unanimously refuse to countenance this visit or to recognise it by your presence at its attendant processions or demonstrations. We appeal to you as workers, speaking to workers, whether you work be that of the brain or the hand, manual or mental toil. It is you and your children we are thinking. It is your cause we wish to safeguard and foster. It's a great honour for me to read this, by the way, the words of this great man. The future of the working class requires that all political and social positions should be open to all men and women, that all privileges of birth or wealth be abolished, and that every man and woman born into this land should have equal opportunity to attain the proudest position in the land. The socialist demands that the only birthright necessary to qualify for public office should be the birthright of our common humanity. Believing as we do that there is nothing on earth more sacred than humanity, we deny all allegiance to this institution of royalty, and hence we can only regard the visit of the king as adding fresh fuel to the fire of hatred with which we regard the plundering institutions of which he is the representative. Let the capitalist and the landlord class flock to exalt him. He is theirs. In him they see embodied the idea of caste and class. They glorify him and exalt his importance, that they might familiarise the public mind with the conception and political inequality, knowing well that a people mentally poisoned by the adulation of royalty can never attain to that spirit of self-reliant democracy necessary for the attainment of social freedom. Fucking fabulous. The mind accustomed to political kings can easily be reconciled to social kings, capitalist kings of the workshop, the mill, the railway, the ships and the docks. Thus, coronation and king's visits are, by our astute, never-sleeping masters, made into huge imperialist propagandist campaigns in favour of political and social schemes against democracy. But if our masters and rulers are sleepless in their schemes against us, so we, rebels against their rule, must never sleep in our appeal to our fellows to maintain as publicity our belief in the dignity of our class, in the ultimate sovereignty of those who labour. What is monarchy? From whence does it derive its sanction? What has been its gift to humanity? Monarchy is a survival of the tyranny imposed by the hand of greed and treachery upon the human race. In the darkest and most ignorant days of our history, it derives its only sanction from the sword of the marauder and the helplessness of the producer. And its gifts to humanity are unknown, save as they can be measured in the pernicious examples of triumphant and shameless inequities. Every class in society, save royalty, and especially the British royalty, has through some of its members contributed something to the elevation of the race, but neither in science nor in art, nor in literature, nor in exploration, nor in mechanical invention, nor in humanising of laws, nor in any sphere of human activity has a representative of British royalty helped forward the moral, intellectual, or material improvement of mankind. But that royal family has opposed every forward move, fought every reform, persecuted every patriot, and intrigued against every good cause, slandering every friend of the people. It has befriended every oppressor. Eulogized today by misguided clerics, it has been notorious in history for the revolting nature of its crimes: murder, treachery, adultery, incest, theft, perjury. Every crime known to man has been committed by someone or other of the race of monarchs from whom King George is proud to trace his descent. And then in quotes, his blood has crept through scoundrels since the flood. So to finish, again, repeat from the start, we will not blame him for the crimes of his ancestors if he relinquishes the royal rights of his ancestors, but as long as he claims their rights by virtue of descent, then by virtue of descent he must shoulder the responsibility for their crimes. That's it. In a nutshell for me, right there, that line. Fellow workers, stand by the dignity of your class. All these parading royalties, all this insolent aristocracy, all these grovelling, dirt-eating capitalist traitors, all these are but signs of disease in any social state, diseases which a royal visit springs to a head and spews in all its nastiness before our horrified eyes. But as the recognition of the disease is the first stage towards its cure, so that we may rid our social state of its political and social diseases, we must recognise the elements of corruption. Hence, in bringing them all together and exposing their unity, even a royal visit may help us to understand, and understanding help us to know how to destroy the royal, aristocratic and capitalist classes who live upon labour. Their workshops, their lands, their mills, their factories, their ships, their railways must be voted into our hands, who alone use them. Public ownership must take the place of capitalist ownership. Social democracy replace political and social inequality. The sovereignty of labour must supersede and destroy the sovereignty of birth and the monarchy of capitalism. Do you see the parallel he's drawn? Right? Ours must be the task to enlighten the ignorant among our class, to dissipate and destroy the political and social superstitions of the enslaved masses, and to hasten the coming of the day. And in the words of Joseph Brennan, the fearless patriot of 48, all the world will maintain the right divine of labour to be the first of earthly things, that the thinker and the worker are manhood's only kings. I can say no more than that. I can say no more than that. James Connolly is just beyond belief. A couple of comments on the YouTube demo. Just checking if going for a pint with Richie is better than having your kids, Andy. You know, girls, if you're watching this, know what's that. Say no more. Yosemite 30. He wants a slim down carbon neutral coronation, so that's okay then. Yeah. Thomas Clark. The symbol of death, even momentarily, of their material faith shall expose the tyranny of their souls. Awesome. Oh, that's a fucking good one. Who said that? Is that Connolly again? The symbol of death, even momentarily, of their material faith shall expose the tyranny of their souls. Oh, that's brilliant. Tony G, great show tonight. Thank you, Tony G. Thanks for the comments, boys. I appreciate it. I appreciate you weighing in with the words, the thoughts, the comments, and the opinion. I love it. I'm going to try and figure out how to, if people want to just jump in and get you up on the screen. I need a couple of bits of software. I might be able to make that happen. That's going to be the next evolution of this, I think. Yeah, so thanks, guys. Like, share, subscribe. Again, if anyone wants to criticize me for not being a royalist or not being respectful, it's a contradiction. I'm going to contradict myself. I'm glad that Sinn Féin did what they did. I'm glad that they did that, because if you don't know what I mean by that, go and watch last week's video and you'll see I explain it much more clearly than I'm able to right now, because I'm shutting this down. I'm glad they did that because it's going to work for us to achieve our ultimate goal, which is to unite this Ireland in, hopefully, in a socialist, communist, it's not going to be a communist state, but a social democracy at least. That said, what James Connolly says there about royalty is exactly my thoughts on royalty. And if I'm gonna fanboy over anybody's words or anybody's opinions or whatever, it's going to be the likes of James Connolly, and certainly no royal. But anyway, listen, there we go. I'm going to shut it down, guys. Night, boys. Thanks, boys. Demo, Darren Robertson, Jerry, Tony G, Thomas Clark, Rev, SME 30. I think there's a few others. Listen, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe, everyone. Do the thing. And I'll get you over the weekend. We'll do another one over the weekend. That's me. Good night. Keep it real.